He came right from the plane to the house last night, and my little guy was sitting there waiting for him for the doorbell to ring for Pops to show up, and he just jumps right in his arms. So he follows him around wherever he goes when he's there, and to see that bond between my son and my dad is something special.
That was Ryan Bowness, the Associate General Manager of the Ottawa Senators. And you're probably wondering, where is Jamie Thomas? I'm in his seat. No, he did not turn back the clocks and look this young. There he is. He's over Zoom in Toronto with the team on the road in what looks like some sort of set. You've got a velvet curtain behind you. It's just lovely. Tell me about the setting that you're in right now.
Listen, now I know, like, with all those TSN insiders when they're doing their hits, exactly what it looks like. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if velvet curtains is a good look or not, and it feels like it's very similar. I try to emulate what you have going on behind you, but this is as best as I could get it to look. So coming from the lovely Ritz in downtown Toronto, this is where ground control is running from today. And you know what? It has been since April. I forgot about the grind of the road. We got it at like 1:00 this morning. Ugh.
Yeah, it's impressive what those players do. And I would say this, I don't play hockey for a living, and I'm tired when I get in. So I can only imagine what they feel like when they get in late at night like that. Jamie, you are the host of the show, so I don't know what comes next. You go ahead and you just tell me what to do.
Well, we can tell you that Ryan Bowness, the Associate General Manager of the Ottawa Senators, is our guest here on Ground Control. Obviously, Ryan took some time to speak with me before the Sens and Jets met on Saturday afternoon. It was a matinee game, so many thanks to Ryan Bowness for taking the time to do that. And the conversation clearly was about his dad. So, and of course, his mom, Judy. Great convo coming up a little bit later on this podcast. But first, hey, listen, the streak had to come to an end at some point, my friend. And there were a couple of them, and you could even throw three, but we'll focus on the two of them. The modern day record of allowing 3 goals or less was 35, set by the Minnesota Wild in 2015. And the Jets came so close, this close to tying that record yesterday.
You were in the building, so I think we figured it out.
Yeah. So 34 games. Was the franchise record set by the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the Boston Bruins scored their 4th goal into an empty net. And I remember the reaction in the hallway when Rick Bowness pulled the goaltender when it was 3-1 late in the 3rd period. And you're like, oh, please don't score. You don't want the streak to come to an end, even in a loss like that. So, unfortunately, Brad Marchand found the puck, put it in the open net for the 4th goal. And, I mean, it's impressive, Tyler, what they pulled off. You knew it couldn't go forever, but the way the Jets have played defensively remains one of the most impressive parts of this regular season.
Okay, so before we get into just how impressive the run was, if anybody out there is upset at the fact that they pulled the goalie,
my gosh, the reaction about this.
Yes, I was at home and I'm standing and watching the game and I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, that would suck if this happens. But at the same time, like, no, you're trying to win a hockey game, and that's the ultimate. You're not protecting records and whatnot. Like, at the end of the day, this is impressive. Your name is still on the leaderboard, and heck, in our own mind, we can put an asterisk on it just based on the fact it was an empty net goal. Dylan DeMello joked about it at the end of the game in his media session. But yeah, so impressive. Just the level of consistency that a feat like this takes. And I have every reason to believe that, this is something that we can look back on and say, A, that's impressive, and B, I think they can continue it. I mean, you just look at the way they play 5-on-5. There was a great tweet thread by, I can't recall who it was. It was some analytics person on X talking about and was showing video clips of defensive fills and just picking up on responsibilities when players were filling in. So it's just so impressive what they were able to do. And I think we need to look back on this time fondly and then also be really excited for the future.
Also, like, another streak that came to an end was allowing 2 goals or less. That was obviously put to the back burner when Jake DeBrusk scored the shorthanded goal that made it 3-1. So that streak was 14 consecutive games or 2 goals or less. That's impressive in itself. And you did mention Dylan DeMello, Tyler, after the game, and he did touch on the asterisk situation allowing that fourth goal into an empty net.
Empty netter. So is there an asterisk on it? I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it. But yeah, I mean, you know what? It was a great streak. It's time to get it going again. So, we got a lot to learn from a game like this going forward. So we, get some rest and another big game in Toronto.
I love how even in a loss, Dylan DeMello can joke a little bit about it, because I think at that point, regardless of what had happened, you can touch on the streak with a little bit of humor as well, right? So, and Dylan DeMello is so good, got a great sense of humor, and that was the right place for that comment, right? You feel cheated a little bit because that fourth goal went into an empty net. So I can understand why Dylan addressed it the way he did. And the best thing he said, like you said, is let's start another one. And of course, the Jets begin a home and home series with the Toronto Maple Leafs. This podcast is being taped on Tuesday. The podcast will be released on Wednesday, the day the Jets face the Toronto Maple Leafs here in Toronto. So maybe the streak starts up yet again against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Wednesday.
Maybe. I mean, if Matthews and Nylander have anything to say about it, I'd say they'd think that they can keep the streak at bay for at least another couple games. Obviously, the home and home with Toronto, which kudos to the schedule makers. I feel like the schedule this year has just been really good in terms of creating some juice. I mean, you have that back-to-back with Minnesota, the home and home there. You have the home and home with the Leafs heading into the All-Star break, which happens to be in Toronto as well. So, Kyle Connor would be greeted with open arms in Leafs Nation next weekend. So it'll be really interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, and listen, Kyle Connor found out on Monday afternoon about being sent to Toronto for the All-Star game. There's a couple of injuries. Jack Eichel from the Vegas Golden Knights and Connor Bedard from the Chicago Blackhawks opens the door for Kyle Connor to go, and he's well deserving of it. If he doesn't get injured, you'd have to think that he was probably an automatic for the selection to go to this All-Star game here in Toronto. And Kyle touched on the when he found out about it after the game against the Bruins.
Yeah, surprised. Pretty, obviously honored. And Chevy said that there were some injuries and just told me the league asked if I wanted to be there. So obviously you get a chance to represent your team and be a part of something like this. It's a no-brainer, and you obviously want to go.
Definitely would have been there if he wasn't injured, I'm sure, right away. So it's great to see him get rewarded. Such an electric player, such a big part of this team, and does so much for our group offensively all over the ice. So great to see him get rewarded for it, and good to see that we don't just have Bucky and Bones going. We got a little bit more representation from our team, so it's great to see.
I don't know how the All-Star game is going to look, Tyler. To be honest, with the picking of the teams again, you're not sure about it. But the best part of it is there'll be 3 Winnipeg Jets there. One of them will be Kyle Connor, of course, Connor Hellebuck, and head coach Rick Bowness. And didn't get a chance to ask Ryan Bowness about this, but Ryan did say that the entire gang will be in Toronto with Rick. His entire family will be there to take it in, which is pretty cool. To hear about that. So a well-deserving honor for all 3 players. And you have to think it would be, if Mark Scheifele hadn't been hurt, maybe the conversation goes a little bit towards him as well, but that's a conversation for another time. Now, every time the Jets, don't do as well and don't score goals in the power play, the conversation reverts to what's going on with the man advantage. And I think, it's a fair question. It didn't look efficient yesterday. There was a little bit more puck movement on the second and third power play opportunities, but I think for the most part, we can chalk this up to lack of personnel, right? They have not been able to stay fully healthy. Gabe Vilardi did not play last night. He was a game time decision heading into the game. So Axel Jonsson-Fjallby came in. Alex Iafallo moved up to the first line. That didn't stay together for a very long time at all. But I think the tough part of all this and to evaluate the Jets' man advantage is you have not had the personnel that you had penciled in at the beginning part of training camp.
Yeah, Rick Bowness touched on it post-game, to a question by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press just on the power play. And to his credit, he just said, look, I get it. It's something we need to work on. That second unit has been pretty solid given the ice time that they get on that power play. But, we haven't had, and we talked about this last week also on the podcast, you haven't had Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi, and Mark Scheifele together really for any period of time this season. And that's a big deal. I think we sort of get lost in the fact that, yeah, we've won 30 games here in Winnipeg and things are going great, but the power play has been the thing that is what's being talked about, because obviously it hasn't been as good as it probably should be. And I think, hopefully, cross our fingers and toes, that going into the second half of the season, we can get a little stability here in Manitoba on that power play with those three guys coming back and being healthy. And hopefully we start to see some production there. And, I mean, the trade deadline is coming up. Who knows what the Winnipeg Jets are going to do with that? That's something that obviously could provide a little spark in some way, shape, or form. So I think if you're a fan of the Winnipeg Jets, rely on the fact that the 5-on-5 play has been so elite this year. And really, when you think about it, the power play is like maybe, 6-8 minutes a night? That's not a ton of the game. Now, you want that to be able to supplement your 5-on-5 play, so you're not feeling like you have to push at 5-on-5 all the time. But the things have been working on 5-on-5. Let's keep resting on those laurels and just wait for the power play to get going. I mean, if the power play gets heated up in March, heading into playoffs, I think it's like, okay, cool, great, this is awesome. So I don't think you necessarily need to worry about it right now. Let's talk about this in a month, hopefully, cross our fingers again, when they have those three guys back in the lineup together for an extended period of time.
Yeah, Gabe Vilardi, it's a lower body injury. Not sure about his status against the Toronto Maple Leafs in either one of these games right before the All-Star break. So that again, a big loss. Nope. Mark Scheifele or Gabe Vilardi last night with the man advantage. So you know what? You touched on Rick Bowness talking about the power play. Let's hear exactly what he said last night against the Bruins.
You know, one thing about the power play you got to keep in mind is we have never had a chance to work Mark, Casey, and Gabe together. We haven't. One of them's been hurt the whole time. The second unit hasn't been the problem. But in fairness to those guys, yeah, can we do a better job? Yes, there's no question. I think I still think we can shoot the puck a lot more. But I think when we finally get a chance to put Mark, Gabe, and Casey on the same unit with Nick, then I think it'll turn around. The second unit's been pretty good.
Many thanks to Rick Bowness for clearing things up as we touched on the challenges of having an efficient power play without Mark Scheifele, Gabe Vilardi, and Kyle Connor all together at the same time. I think anybody out there that watches the game can understand why the power play hasn't been as efficient as it could be when all those three players can be on the ice at the same time in that number one unit. Of course, he touched on Nikolai Ehlers as well. So every week we'll have the ground control question of the week. And this time around, I asked everybody out there on X, I said, which goal of Nikolai Ehlers do you like better? And there was the highlight reel goal that we all saw in Florida. It was a tremendous effort. And then, of course, his big goal against the Ottawa Senators in overtime, both highlight reel worthy. But I asked people out there, and I've got three pretty good answers, or three answers. Winnipeg Jets News Update said Saturday's goal, he's awesome. Jeff Tilbury said Ottawa OT winner. And last but not least, Charlene Clinton. We may know that name somewhere out there. Sharzy's out there. The Florida goal is the reason he scored the Ottawa goal the way he did. So I vote the Ottawa goal if my vote counts. Charlene, your vote always counts. Thank you so much for writing in and answering to that. So
I got to say, I love our listeners, but I don't agree.
You don't agree? Do you want to address it? Do you want to address this with...
That is recency. It's recency bias.
Okay.
The goal against Florida is far superior. To take the puck from across the body and then score at that rate of speed, I think it's way better. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I love that we can have this conversation, but I think the Florida goal is just a lot better. I think he gets lucky with the backhander, to be honest. A bit of an overcommit by the goaltender. It's a beautiful goal, very talented, very skilled, but if we're debating the minutia here, I mean, it's not really a big deal. But I think the Florida goal is nicer. That's just me.
Well, on that note, because of the recency bias, the play of the week is Nikolai Ehlers and his effort in Ottawa.
It looked like he was headed off, and now peels back. There's a guy that can scoop too. Nikolai Ehlers breaking in on Chychrun to the backhand, scores! Felt like it was going to be a guy with speed and skill, and that's exactly what Ehlers is. And how about this individual effort? And that beautiful backhand as well to finish off as he dances around Chychrun. Head up, flying, A little move there, kicks it to his stick, and then a perfect backhand.
Hi, I'm Alex Follow,
High slot, he scores!
and this is the Ground Control Podcast.
Okay, so the play of the week. I need to address something. You know, I've been a co-host on this podcast for 2 weeks.
And you're almost starting to see holes in the show.
And I have not been consulted once on what the play of the week is. You and our producer, Daniel Moss, are just making executive decisions unilaterally without me. And
we had so many shows before you came along. We're not used to you having a say in the show.
You know, I have a cell phone. You know, like we have a group chat going, and I feel a little left out that you're not really asking me my opinion and whether or not I'm entitled to this.
Mosser, make sure Esquivel gets a say next week on the play of the week.
Yeah, well, he can't hear you, so I'll pass that along.
You're not going to, are you?
Oh, I should. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that maybe next week we could have this discussion. Is there a show next week? You're the host. You tell me. Like,
yeah, I'm back. Well, it's All-Star week, so it's a bye week. I have. I'm going to talk to Colby Barlow today, so I have to. We have to have a show.
Okay. Well, I'm away.
Are you around?
No, I'm not.
Where are you going to be?
For those that must know, I am on vacation with my new wife, so I don't think I'm going to be allowed to be on the podcast.
Can you just come? We'll talk about this after the show. Ryan Bowness, the son of Rick Bowness, is our special guest here on Ground Control. Here is that conversation in a beautiful room at Canadian Tire Center.
Ryan, what's it like having dinner with your dad the night before your two teams go up against one another?
You know what? It's fun. I mean, I know people probably make a bigger deal about it than it really is, but it's just father and son getting together. And really, it's father and grandkids because he's more excited to see my two kids than he is me, obviously. So, you know what? We enjoy those times. We don't get to see each other too often. So anytime you do, you have to certainly take as much advantage of it as you can. We're a pretty tight-knit family from top to bottom. So, you know, we enjoy nights like that. And then today we come to the rink and, you know, hope our team wins and then say bye to each other after and move on. But no, you got to enjoy those times whenever you can.
What were family dinners like as you guys adults? Because hockey is such a big part of all your lives. Mm-hmm. What percentage of those conversations turn out to be hockey, and outside of that, when you guys are all together as a family?
You know what? We try and make a concerted effort not to talk about it, but it just automatically just gravitates back towards it. I think my mom and sister get pretty annoyed with us sometimes and have to change the subject a lot, but it's just the nature of the beast. It's the occupational hazard, I guess you could say. It's such a big part of who we are and who we were growing up. You know, it's the only life that we've ever known as kids. So, yeah, there's times where, okay, we kind of look at each other and go, okay, kind of change the subject, but you know, again, it's all part of it.
How did your parents instill this family value with you guys growing up?
You know what? A lot of the credit goes to my mom. You know, she's, as everybody that knows our family knows, we have, you know, there's 5 of us growing up, but there's one MVP, and it's my mother. She instilled our values in us. You know, people forget, you know, growing up, when you have a father that works in the business, he's on the road half the year. So mom's at home taking care of all 3 of us and taking us to school and our activities and everything. She's the absolute glue that holds our family together. She instilled all those values in us, and she deserves all the credit for that because, you know, we moved around a lot growing up, but one thing we always knew was home was wherever our family was, and we just had those values instilled in us from a very young age. Obviously, Dad deserves a lot of the credit for that, but again, we have one MVP in our family as my mother.
Well, someone has to follow the rules, and it may as well be your dad, right?
Yeah, exactly. He just he's not the boss at home, we'll put it that way.
What's a couple of funny stories about your dad growing up that you can remember? I know there must be a bunch, but if you could regale a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many growing up. Listen, my best childhood memories were going to the rink with my dad on Saturday mornings, and you know, I was very fortunate that I had a dad that really wanted to include his kids and everything. So I really didn't give him much of a choice. I would always wait at the door for him Saturday morning and run into the rink with him, and I'd come in and help the trainers. So, you know, this is the only life I've ever known. But again, fortunate that he allowed me to do that growing up, and it's probably helped me in terms of transitioning to what I do today. But you know, lots, like he's obviously, we look at him in a different lens. He's dad, like he's not a coach in our eyes.
Did he bring it though? Did he bring it home at all, or was he good at?
You know, when we were kids, you don't really know, like, you're too young to know. But I think as we grew older and had a better understanding of what he did, we were sensitive to wins and losses. and things of that nature. But he tried his best not to bring it home. But there were certainly nights where you're like, okay, Dad's worrying a little bit tonight, and that's just the nature of the beast.
What does it mean to you to be a part of this organization that your dad was the first ever coach of?
Yeah, it's huge. When I talk about my best childhood memories, it's Ottawa. We were here for 4 years. I was 9 to 13 years of age, so it's a pretty prime area of your childhood that you think back on. A lot of my best friends in the world still live in this city to this day, and now it's nice coming back and establishing those relationships with them. But listen, the Ottawa Senators franchise, obviously with him being the first ever coach here, meant a lot to us growing up as a family. And we in all the cities we lived in, Ottawa was always my favorite. So to be able to come back here with my family now and reestablish some of those roots that be able to pass on some of my old memories to my family now and teach them about things growing up here has been amazing.
I believe you were 9, so that's when he was hired as the coach here. Yeah. So that's almost like a perfect age for memories, right? It's not like you were 5 or something like that, but that's a good time.
No, exactly. And then actually, after we left here, we went to New York for 2 years, kept our house, and then we moved back. So I played Major Bantam here and ended up getting drafted to the OHL. So came back for 2 years after he even left here. So 6 years total of our childhood, which doesn't really seem a lot, but when you move every 2 years, it's a pretty good chunk of it.
Considering your dad's history in the city of Winnipeg, how excited were you and the family when your dad was offered the job to take the Jets?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, first of all, we were young when he was here before, obviously. But then I actually moved back in 2011 from Atlanta with the team. So I had experience living in the city in between them coming back. And then obviously I had relationships with the management staff and Mark Chipman and Chevy, Larry and Zinger. So to have him now come back after all these years and work there, and just from my parents' point of view, how much they enjoyed their time in Winnipeg before, and to see them go back and again, kind of the same thing, reestablish some old relationships. And they love the city, they love the family atmosphere that's created by the Jets organization, and that's kind of who they are, and it's helped mold them to who they are today.
Ottawa and Winnipeg are very similar. They're smaller markets, but just such a huge fan base and just so passionate about their teams. I mean, that must be very similar, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You feel it every day. I guess the successes of both organizations this year in terms of wins and losses are different ends of the spectrum, but you feel it every day. And the people here are passionate. We have an unbelievable fan base, as does Winnipeg. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable. So this is why we do it. We do it for the fans. We don't have a game without them. So to see that on both ends of it is a great experience to go through.
Is it brought up at all that you were there before your dad in the Jets 2.0 organization?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's been told, but like Larry Simmons, who's the assistant GM, actually stood in my wedding. So that's how tight we are. And again, I have so much respect for Mark and Patty Chipman, as well as Chevy, Larry, and Singer, who are on the management team there, and everybody involved in the organization is still there. So I think it helped having those relationships. But yeah, there's little jabs we throw each other here and there. But no, it's great. I'm so happy for everybody there.
A last one for you. Every dad has a saying that you, as dads, take to their parenthood. Is there a saying your dad said to you all the time that that it's going to come up when your kids are older? And
yeah, I wouldn't say much as a saying, but I as a father, I've modeled myself after him.
Yeah.
He's just, he was such an unbelievable father to us growing up, and both my parents. Like I talked about my mom earlier, how important she was to us, but the values that they instilled in us, I try and pass along to my family today. And listen, I grew up, all I wanted to do was make my parents proud. I never wanted to disappoint them, and I think I've tried to instill those same values. My kids are a little bit young still to learn that, but that's always something that I always take with me, is I just never wanted to let my parents down. I always wanted to make them proud of me.
Quick follow-up, and I apologize, I said it was the last one, but what's Rick like, and what are your kids' reaction like when your dad comes to visit?
Well,
I know your youngest is too little to me.
My baby daughter's 6 months, so she's starting to get her personality, but my 3-year-old son, his pops is his favorite person in the world. So he just lights up, and he came right from the plane to the house last night, and my little guy was sitting there waiting for him for the doorbell to ring for Pops to show up, and he just jumps right in his arms. So he follows him around wherever he goes when he's there, and to see that bond between my son and my dad is something special that I really cherish every time that we're together. And it was a great night last night. We ordered pizza, and he played mini sticks and with him for a long time, so it was fun. But like I said earlier, you have to enjoy those times, because they are few and far between when you work in the industry that we do, but we enjoy them.
I appreciate your time and enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate having me.
All right, many thanks to Ryan Bowness. Awesome that the family is going to be all together again for the All-Star game in Toronto. That'll be fantastic. Tyler, you're going to be on vacation next week. You should have put in your slip for the vacation request to be off ground control. So bring your laptop. We might need your services, but all the best to you. Enjoy your holiday. So next week, Colby Barlow will be our special guest, the first round pick of the Winnipeg Jets for the 2023 NHL draft. Tyler will be on vacation, but we'll try to move on without him. But I still will consult you, Tyler, for the play of the week before you leave.
Good. We better. I mean, I can slip in a text message here or there. I think that'll be allowed.
Yeah, there's only gonna be 2 games to work with, but maybe you'll do something worthy of the play of the week, and we can put you in on your holiday.
Maybe I'll send out. You know what? I'm gonna send you guys a photo that you can play on the pod. There you go.
Okay, perfect.
And for our audio listeners, you need to say 1,000 words because a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we cannot forget about our humble audio listeners. Those were our humble beginnings here on Ground Control.
Amazing times. Look what we've become at this moment. And you're already on vacation. Your second show, and you're already going on vacation. On behalf of Tyler Esquivel, Daniel Moss, our producer, Ryan Bowness, our special guest, I'm Jamie Thomas. Thanks so much for watching Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.